I understand there will be a special session called just after Thanksgiving. Please tell me that this has something to do with extending the 25 cent per gallon discount that we've been receiving since last winter in regards to the gas excise tax.
It does. We're looking at extending that holiday, and hopefully, I'm meeting with the governor and the other leaders today. Hopefully that extension will go into the spring. I am a bit concerned that Governor Lamont wants to phase it out sooner.
I read that.
That suggests that there's economic recovery. So I would say, let's give some of this money back. I mean, the hoarding of the billions of dollars to only help state government is disturbing to me. So I am going to advocate for that. I think we need to extend it to diesel as well. We've got to suspend the truck tax. We only have more inflation on the horizon. So that's another area I think we need to look at. Obviously, Sean Scanlon came out yesterday, our comptroller-elect, to talk about the extension, putting more money into the hero pay. I do have some concerns about that. He talked about the frontline workers, the police and firemen and EMTs that are deserving of this money. Well, guess what? They don't get the money because it's not how hero was defined under this program. So I think there's some real flaws in that program that we have to take a look at. I also think we've got to start looking at the LIHEAP program. It's underfunded.
Yes, it is greatly.
They need energy assistance. Heating oil is going to be a problem. Not only do we have a shortage, which is only going to rise prices, but our middle class can't afford $7 or $5 a gallon for diesel fuel, which is what is projected throughout this winter. I think we need to up the ante and provide some relief for them. And this, to me, needs to be temporary this year because what we are headed into is inflationary prices that we haven't seen in our lifetime.
I want to go back to the LIHEAP really quickly because I understand that the feds are kicking more money into it, but it's still nowhere near it was prior to this. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. We're still about $40 million short.
Yeah.
So just roughly, I think they added another $20 million to the pot. That doesn't meet what we are projecting that we need. So the option is the program is set up for failure. Same as the hero pay. You know how many applicants you're going to receive. You know how much it's going to cost you. And the notion of, well, let's underfund it anyway.
Well, they did that from the beginning.
That's right.
I never understood that.
They did that with the hero pay from the beginning. They knew the program was going to cost much more than $30 million. They didn't put enough into it. And now the program is failing, and we have to go back in and try to fix it. That's not the way you govern in the state of Connecticut. If LIHEAP is projected to need $120 million, which it is, put the $120 million in. Don't incrementally dangle this money in and put out press releases when you fix it like you did something right. You started out wrong to begin with, and it's unacceptable. So I'm hopeful that we will address it now instead of waiting until January when the program slips into crisis.
Yeah, and quite frankly, when you're making $150,000 a year, you don't need a check from the state government for $46. I mean, that could go to better things,
Yeah, it could go to LIHEAP. I mean, that is true.
And go ahead.
No, and the federal money is running out. This governor, his economic policy over the last 2 years is, let me cut checks to people. We need to use that money to get us out of the post-pandemic problems that we've seen, which includes inflation and job loss and worker retention issues. What is the governor going to do for those things? Continuing to hand out checks to workers doesn't cut it. That's not a long-term solution. And so I'm concerned that the money is running out, the feds aren't going to give us more, and we are putting ourselves into peril next year when everything dries up. We have nothing to show for it. So we need to make some wiser investments in the state of Connecticut.
Vin, I only have a couple minutes left. Can you talk about the truck tax that I think was supposed to go into effect January 1st, right?
Yeah, January 1st, there's going to be this self-reporting truck tax, which means that ultimately out-of-state truckers probably will ignore it. Our Connecticut trucking industry is going to be subject to it. And this applies to not just trucking companies, but distributors like beer distributors and, garden centers that bring mulch. They're going to be impacted by a $90 million tax next year. We don't need the money. Our coffers are flush. because of inflation, we've collected more gas taxes on diesel, which they're paying. Let's suspend that gas tax at the worst, if not eliminate it altogether, because we can't add more cost onto trucking. It's only going to add to the cost of our goods and services.